Hello and welcome to SL Productions and my review of Doctor Who Series 12 Part 2. In this video I will be reviewing episodes 6 through to 10 of Series 12 of Doctor Who, which aired from January to March 2020. I'm sorry for the delay on this, but as you know I am not very reliable, but now I'm trying to make up for that lost time. This is the second video 2 days in a row, so yeah, that is good going on my record. So yes, starting with Praxeous, episode 6 of series 12 of Doctor Who. Now what did I think of this episode? It did have a good message with the whole plastic in the ocean stuff. However, I do think this message could have been conveyed a lot better. For example, the Sea Devils escaping out of the water and attacking humans, getting revenge because the humans put loads of plastic in the ocean. I do think that would have been better and a bit more enjoyable than the plastic being the monster itself. Though, yes, this episode did have flaws, but it did have some good moments. A few of the guest stars were good in this story, a few of them were a bit one-dimensional. I do think they should have condensed it down to maybe 3 guest stars, as the companions didn't have much to do in this episode either. So yes, I do think they could have done that. Probably the weakest episode of the latter half of Series 12, the second to worst one overall in Series 12, Orphan 55 being the worst episode of Series 12. But yeah, Praxeous I'll probably rate about 5 out of 10. It's not awful, but it's just quite forgettable, and I do think it could have been done a lot better. Now moving on to episode 7, which was Can You Hear Me? Now starting with the positives, this episode did have good character development for all 3 of the companions. It did have some very good messages about mental health. However, this episode, the villains weren't very good. They had a good animation sequence in this episode from what I remember. That was a very good, different thing this episode did. However, the villains just seemed a bit one-dimensional, like the whole of Series 11 and Series 12. The villains who were introduced in these 2 series have been very forgettable. The ending was very rushed, and I didn't see the relevance of the bit in Syria. That didn't really link well. I think that should have been a completely different episode. I'm glad they did it, I just don't think the 2 timelines really linked that well. So moving on to episode 8, which is The Haunting of Villa Dioti. I think it's Dioti, something like that. So yeah, this is probably the best episode of Series 12 in my opinion. I think the Cyberman, the lone Cyberman, that was a really cool addition to this story, and never seen a Cyberman like that before. A very good twist when the ghost turned out to be this lone Cyberman. That was a very good twist. Also, the guest stars were very good in this story as well. And the lone Cyberman was very good. The empathy with the Cyberman, what the Cyberman felt, was very good and very interesting. The companions had something to do in this episode as well, which they lacked in Series 12 and 11, excluding the episode before this, Can You Hear Me? That did very good development. So yes, The Haunting of Villa Dioti, I personally rate it an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7.5. It's hard to say. There's not really many negatives of this story. We got to see the Doctor in a lot of peril, which was good. We haven't seen that in a long time. So moving on to the 2-part finale, starting with Ascension of the Cybermen. So Ascension of the Cybermen, a great episode as well, took off after The Haunting of Villa... I'm saying it wrong. The Haunting of Villa Dioti. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, Ascension of the Cybermen, another great episode. Good, lots of action sequences in this episode, and very good in my opinion. And finally, we do have The Timeless Children, the finale of Series 12 of Doctor Who. So this episode was a big game changer in the series, as it pretty much rewrote the whole series of the show. The whole of Doctor Who was rewritten in this episode. I did think it was a good twist that there were more Doctors before the Doctor. It could easily be retconned. The Master could have been lying. The Master is not a reliable source of information, so I reckon it will get retconned in a future episode once a new executive producer comes in. I did like the twist. I just understand how it's very controversial that they did this, as it rewrote the whole history of the show. The guest stars were good in this story as well, like Barristan and Selmy from Game of Thrones. I can't remember the character's name in Doctor Who. And the others, they were okay as well. And yeah, this episode was very good in my opinion. Controversial, but it was alright. So yeah, I personally rate the finale of Doctor Who a 7 out of 10, and I forgot to mention I did like the sequences in Ascension of the Cybermen, which took place in Ireland. They were very good as well, quite mysterious, and they didn't really wrap it up well in The Timeless Children, so perhaps there's something more to go. But who knows? Who knows, as Tom Baker says. So, until the next time, the end of Series 12 review. Goodbye.